Innovative open source projects made by incredibly motivated students, coaches, and organizations.
Alright, hello Open Summer of Code and welcome to another tutorial. This one is about conducting interviews and tests with your application, website, feature, anything you are creating during Open Summer of Code. Anyone is welcome to follow this tutorial. Students, coaches, volunteers. Let's roll. If you already feel quite confident in conducting user interviews or tests, just click the links below. They are templates that can help you out quickly. However, if you want a reminder, you can watch the first half of the video. And if you want really in-depth guidance, just watch the whole video. We have 3 ways to help you out with doing a test or an interview: before, during, and after. Before starting your interview or test, think of what you want to test, think of what you want to ask, think of what information you need. You can prepare some scenarios, questions, and goals for your participants to complete. For instance, you could ask, what do you need to do your job if you're creating something to help people complete their job? Can you tell me what you see to discover what people are actually interpreting, what they are thinking of what they are seeing? Can you please complete the sign-up form is also another good one to check if people can actually do what you want them to do and to see where things go wrong. In the meantime, it's also very interesting to ask people what they're doing, what they're seeing. This will help you understand what's happening without assuming. After that, you can test these scenarios and questions together with your team. It will become clear very quickly whether the questions make sense and how much time it will take, so you can communicate about that in advance. Prepare a pitch so that the people participating know what it's about. After that, it's up to you to find and convince those participants. Send them a clear calendar invite with the link attached to your video conference room, because this will probably be a remote session due to COVID. During a test or interview, you can start with saying hi. Introduce yourselves. Let them introduce themselves. Let everybody feel at ease. Then you can also pitch the project to give them some context, but don't give away any features yet. And make it clear that they cannot hurt your feelings, because people are afraid to hurt your feelings. And I will give you some guidance there later on how to make people feel comfortable. But yeah, they will do their best anyways, whether you like that or not. You can even pretend you're not part of the project and that you're just helping people out to test this application or website you're creating. Whatever you can do to make people feel comfortable to tell the truth. Then let your participants complete the test. If you have to cut it short, that's possible. Just know why and know you can retrace it. Sometimes it seems something is not useful at that point or not relevant. It's okay to skim over those questions you prepared. Do not interfere. This is perhaps the hardest one. When somebody's struggling, it's really hard not to help them out. But that is the most crucial moment to learn. If you're talking, you can't learn a lot. If they are talking, you can learn a lot. So ask, what are you doing? What's going on? Is something wrong? Or are you confused? Help them talk out loud. Adapt a user test if you need to along the way. Just make sure that you can compare results in the end, which will help you after the user test. Gather all the results, compare them, then come together with your team to scope to see what you're going to fix and what you are not going to fix, because sometimes users have different expectations than your business goals. So you need to make priorities here. What is your goal with the project you're building? What does your client need? And what does the user want? Sometimes those are different things. You need to make choices there. And then you can ship those solutions and test again. Let me give you an insight on how to properly document these tests in an easy manner. You have your list of participants. Know when you're going to conduct a test, with who, and have a reference. That's easy and also good to anonymize later on. Write down who is participating and why they are relevant. It's best to test with relevant people that are actually going to use the website or prototype or whatever you are going to build. This will give you the most accurate results. If you cannot find these people, I totally understand it's not always easy. You can always test with somebody else, but make them as relevant as possible. And this will also give context for the people reading this exact document. At the video call location, at the testing location, maybe link to the sketches or prototypes or whatever. Make sure you have the right version linked here so that afterwards, when people are looking at this document, know in what context this is conducted. It's easy to write down your introduction beforehand to make sure people feel at ease, feel at home. In a remote context, we have different rules than in a live context. In a live context, you would even perhaps have a laptop available, have a mouse available, tell people to use them as their own. But now you can just say, pretend like you're home and you're probably home, which is great. An introduction will help set expectations and make people feel at ease, which is very important. Some participants are nervous and want to perform really well. A lot of these topics you can communicate beforehand and not during the test, but this is a document that can help you during the test. Thank the participant. They're probably doing this for free. In a business context, you will probably have to pay people for this. We are not going to record these interviews because that would require signing GDPR documents, and you don't want that right now. Then explain the goal of why you are interviewing or testing with these participants. What are you creating? What are you doing? And how are you going to conduct this test or interview? Write it down so you don't have to think about it on the spot. You can give an extra reminder about the setup. You will have to communicate that upfront as well. But during the test, you can explain it again. I am going to interview you. My colleague is going to take notes. You can just share your screen and your video so we can figure out what you're doing. And I think that's sufficient. It can be quite intimidating if there's more people in the video call than just the interviewer and the note taker. So limit it to that, and the others can read the notes later on anonymized. The interviewer should always have their video on, if possible, with your internet connection. The note taker does not necessarily need to do that. They can be a little bit in the background. And turn off your mic if you're taking notes. An interview you can conduct in two ways. You can send a form up front and ask questions about that later on, or you can just ask the questions and interview that person so you can ask why on the spot, which is very helpful if you don't understand something or you really want to get to the bottom of something. Ask as little questions as possible. Only the information you need is relevant here. Keep it as short as possible. Respect people's time. You can dive deeper into these questions later on. Just make sure that they are relevant to you and the project. Then we are going to perform a qualitative test. This means asking questions. We're not focusing on quantity, we're focusing on quality and discovering what's good and what is not. Don't make your tests too long. It's tiring for both the participant and yourself. Encourage them beforehand to talk out loud and make them feel at home. An example of what you can share beforehand is how long it will take and that they can't do anything wrong. This will make them feel a little bit more at ease. Clarify that you're testing what you have built and not testing them. So if they are confused or something is going wrong, this is something the team has to fix, not the person testing. Clarify that they cannot insult you with feedback and it's only going to help you further. Some people might go into test mode, and what I mean by that is that they will start clicking randomly, start trying out things they would never try out before. Make them feel like this is a realistic situation. If somebody's looking for information, confirm that they can do it quickly if they always do it quickly, and if they want to do it thoroughly like they always do, they can also do the same, but they do not have to adapt their behavior. The only thing they have to adapt is the fact that they will talk about what they're doing. They will be working out loud. They will inform you about what's going well and what is not going well. So encourage them there to speak up and ask questions in between if you need to. And you can assure them once more, we are not going to share this outside of Open Summer of Code, only with our client, only with our colleagues, and anonymized. You can anonymize these documents later on. Then if you've done the introduction, make them feel comfortable to ask questions. And if they feel comfortable, you can continue with your interview or test or both. We have arrived at the interview. You can repeat some information. This is going to help the people that are reading this document afterwards to get some context. like the date, the researcher who is doing what, give some context, add the link to the introduction document, add the goals, add the method. Are you going to send this up front or are you answering this live? A list of participants and a reference, and then your questions and answers. These are the same as you've seen on the previous page, but you have references here now. And you have some space to type in whatever you need to type in. This will help the note taker while conducting the interview, and this will help you and your colleagues to really analyze and compare answers afterwards. At the end of this document, you will find some conclusions, and this will really help you pin down what information you really needed from this interview or test in the next document. For instance, if you're working with people with disabilities, you will now know what to focus on more than you would normally when taking accessibility into account. It will also help you place your feedback into context. If people are not familiar with the field you are working with, it's probably going to color the feedback a little bit. You will also figure out what types of devices your participants use and what to develop for, what tech stack you will use. And you will also be able to determine the learning curve. So how simple should the interface be? How steep can the learning curve be? And you will also have very specific questions for your project. Nobody else will have these. If you're building something for musea, you probably want to know, does this person actually visit a museum or not? And what is most important for this person when they visit a museum? We have arrived at the last document. This document will help you conduct a test and analyze the questions afterwards. Again, we have the goals, the method. It's kind of the same as the user interview document. Again, the participants, which you can anonymize later on. We have arrived at questions and answers. This looks very similar to the interview document, as it will have the nice little columns to make sure that you can analyze rather quickly and compare answers, but you have different things you will ask. You can give people specific scenarios to complete, to really get into a certain job, to find something, for instance, and you can give them very specific tasks. For instance, a scenario could be you found a very interesting museum, you land on this page, tell us what information you're looking for and where you think you can find it. This will give you a little bit of an idea of what the process would be like and what they are thinking of, which you might not have thought of beforehand. Then you can also ask follow-up questions like, is something missing? The answer to these questions are free-form text. Then you also have specific tasks. A task could be, tell us what you see on this page. Very simple question, but it will give you, again, an idea of what people are thinking about. We can have much more specific tasks like, where would you look for parking details? Or what do you think the top left button would do? And this will give you insight on copy, if people understand what you typed is logic to them or not. Specific tasks like these have very simple answers like correct or wrong, and maybe you can add a clarification if needed, but that's not always necessary. If something is not clear, as I've mentioned before, you can always ask, what's going on? What's happening? What are you thinking? Do not assume things. You can just ask. And remind yourself, don't give them answers. Let them struggle. That's when you learn. At the end of a test, I like to ask 2 questions, which to me are the most important ones. The first question is, would you use this app, website, feature, whatever you've created? And then you can clarify perhaps. This will be a very good indication whether you're creating value or not. And then the second important question is, would you recommend this to your colleague, friends, or anybody else, depending on the context? Again, yes, no, and you can add a clarification later. And at the end, you will be able to ask some core questions on why you are conducting this user test. For instance, can the people reach the goals that you've set out? Describe the goals here. Do they think it's valuable? Do people understand? Is it user-friendly? What should we improve? Adapt these conclusions to what your team, to what your project needs. Good luck. If you have any questions, please reach out.